When you hug a man, you're doing more than embracing his body. You're touching parts of him he rarely reveals. It tells him he's safe, seen, and accepted without needing to speak. In that moment, he lets go, feels deeply, and remembers what connection, real, honest connection, actually feels like. When it comes to men, physical contact is often one of the only socially acceptable ways they get to feel emotionally connected. Unlike women, who are generally encouraged to express emotions verbally and physically from an early age, many men are raised to suppress vulnerability. They're taught to be strong, stoic, and independent. This means they often don't have the same emotional outlets, and as a result, a simple hug, especially from someone they care about, can carry more weight than we might ever imagine. Think about the way a hug disarms someone. It's not just arms wrapping around the body, it's presence, it's attention, it's warmth. For a man, that moment can be incredibly grounding. He might not always show it on his face, but inside, a genuine, affectionate hug can make him feel something he doesn't often allow himself to experience: emotional safety. That safety is rare, and when it's given without expectations, it becomes emotional currency. It's a silent way of saying, "I see you. I accept you. You don't have to perform for me. Just be here." This type of physical contact becomes even more powerful when it comes from someone he has feelings for. It doesn't have to be sexual. In fact, some of the most profound feelings can come from moments that are entirely non-sexual. It's the difference between a transactional touch and an intentional one. When you hug a man with real presence, it tells him you're not just checking a box. You're with him in that moment. And that tells him more than words ever could. For many men, stress and emotional pressure build up silently. They're not always quick to share what they're going through, but that doesn't mean the feelings aren't there. A hug can release tension in a way that conversations sometimes can't. The human body responds to genuine affection. Hormones like oxytocin are released, which reduce stress and create a feeling of trust and connection. So what seems like a small act on the outside can actually shift something inside him. There are men who will go entire weeks without receiving a single affectionate, intentional touch. No hand on the shoulder, no reassuring squeeze, no lingering embrace. And yet, like all human beings, they crave that connection. They crave to feel held, understood, and valued. Not for what they do, but for who they are. When someone gives that to them through physical contact, it doesn't just feel good, it feels meaningful. It registers as something rare, something worth remembering. A hug might only last a few seconds, but for a man who doesn't get many moments to fully let his guard down, those seconds can speak volumes. They tell him he doesn't have to keep performing. He doesn't need to keep pretending. He can just exist as he is and still be enough. When a man is hugged with real warmth and intention, it can trigger a feeling that is rare in his day-to-day life, the feeling of being seen and accepted. In a world that constantly demands performance, strength, and control from men, being embraced in a way that says, "I see you and you're enough," touches something deep inside him. He may not always express it out loud, and he may not even be fully aware of it in the moment, but emotionally, that hug reaches him. Men are often taught to lead with competence. They're expected to fix problems, stay composed, and be the one others rely on. Over time, this can create an internal barrier between who they really are and the version of themselves they feel they need to be. That's why a simple, genuine hug can be so disarming. It bypasses all the layers of performance. It doesn't require him to be strong, clever, or charming. It simply allows him to be. And in that moment, when someone holds him close without judgment or expectation, he feels something rare: acceptance. It's not just physical closeness, it's emotional presence. It's you saying, without words, "I'm here with you. I'm not trying to change you. I'm not asking you to be anything but yourself." And that kind of presence is a gift. For a man who is used to being seen for what he does, his achievements, his role, his usefulness, being hugged with that kind of energy is like stepping into a space where he's valued for who he is, not just what he offers. This is especially powerful in romantic or emotionally intimate relationships. When you hug a man like you mean it, without rushing, without holding back, you communicate something far deeper than affection. You communicate that he doesn't need to prove himself to be worthy of closeness, that his walls can drop, that even in his quieter, softer moments, he is still deeply worthy of love and attention. That's not something most men get told directly, but it's something they long to feel. It can also be healing. If a man has gone through life being judged, misunderstood, or pressured to fit into a mold, the simple act of being held without condition can begin to break down those internal walls. He might not show it right away. He might laugh it off or brush past the emotion. But deep down, he feels it. It registers in his nervous system. It tells him, you don't have to fight right now. You don't have to perform. You are seen, you are accepted, and you are safe. This kind of hug, quiet, present, intentional, carries a message louder than any compliment. It says, I'm with you as you are. And for a man who's always had to be something for everyone else, that message lands like truth. It allows him to breathe differently, to feel differently, to connect on a level that's rare but unforgettable. When a man receives a hug, he doesn't just feel it, he reads it. He notices the tone behind it, the energy it carries, and the intention with which it's given. Even if he doesn't say anything, he's picking up on subtle cues, how long the hug lasts, how close your body is, whether it feels warm or distant, affectionate or polite. For a man, especially one who's emotionally aware or interested in you, a hug is rarely just a hug. It's a moment he interprets. Men are often careful observers, especially when they're emotionally invested. If he likes you, he's not just going through the motions when you hug him. He's feeling for something deeper. He's measuring what that hug says about your connection. Does it feel platonic or romantic? Is it a quick, casual embrace or one that lingers and holds emotion? The way you wrap your arms around him, whether you rest your head on his shoulder, the softness or tension in your body, all of it communicates something. And he's absorbing those signals, consciously or not. If you initiate the hug, he's wondering what it means. Was it spontaneous? Was it because you missed him? Were you comforting him? These thoughts may flash through his mind in seconds, but they leave an emotional imprint. A hug that feels intentional, where you're fully present with him, makes him feel chosen. It tells him there's connection here, that you're not hugging him because it's expected or polite, but because you want to, and that makes a difference. Men are not emotionless or clueless about body language. In fact, because they often don't hear emotional language directly, they tend to become even more attuned to how things feel. They look for meaning in tone, in eye contact, and yes, in physical touch. If he notices that your hug feels different than it used to, more distant, shorter, or stiffer, it might plant a seed of doubt. Just as much, if the hug starts to feel warmer or more intimate, it might give him confidence or deepen his emotional investment. Even small changes in the way you hug him can carry weight. Maybe one day you hold on for just a few seconds longer and he notices. Maybe you pull him in tighter than usual and he feels that shift. To you it might not seem like much, but to him it can say something powerful. Men are conditioned to interpret limited emotional cues, so when they get something real, even as simple as a hug with heart, they lean into it, they analyze it, and they remember it. When he hugs you, he's also checking how you respond. Do you relax into him? Do you hug him back fully? Or do you keep your body tense and distant? These things matter to him. They help him understand where he stands with you. In that brief, wordless exchange, he's feeling out your emotional availability, your attraction, your affection, and often your level of trust. A hug, to him, is more than contact. It's a message, and he's always listening. ChatGPT said, when a man receives a meaningful hug, it can do more than comfort him in the present. It can unlock emotional memories from his past. Physical touch, especially when it's intentional and warm, is directly connected to the parts of the brain that store emotional experiences. That means a simple hug can transport him back to moments he hasn't thought about in years. He may not realize it consciously, but that moment of connection can trigger feelings rooted in childhood, past relationships, or even unresolved grief. For many men, Affection hasn't always been a consistent part of their lives. Some grew up in environments where emotional expression was rare or discouraged. A hug might have been something he received only on special occasions or during moments of crisis. So when he gets a heartfelt hug now, especially from someone he cares about, it doesn't just stay in the present moment. It echoes. It reaches back and stirs up things he's tucked away. Sometimes it reminds him of safety. Maybe it takes him back to when he was a boy and his mother or grandmother hugged him after a hard day. Maybe it reminds him of feeling protected, cared for, and unconditionally loved. That memory, whether sharp or vague, can bring a wave of calm that words simply can't replicate. Other times, it can remind him of loss, of someone he used to hug who's no longer around. That kind of memory can hit him unexpectedly, making him feel both comforted and vulnerable at once. In romantic relationships, this effect can be even more intense. If he's been heartbroken before, or if he once loved someone deeply who used to hold him that way, your hug might trigger flashbacks of what he used to have. But rather than being a negative experience, it can actually become something healing. Your presence in that moment helps him rewrite the memory, replacing what once felt like pain with something that now feels safe and new. A new association forms. The hug he's receiving today becomes part of a different emotional narrative, one where affection doesn't have to end in loss. These emotional imprints often go unspoken, but they're real. He may act quiet after the hug, or unexpectedly affectionate. He might even look at you a little differently, as if you've just reached a place few others have. That's because you have. Whether you meant to or not, you've stirred something inside him that reminded him he's human, that he's still capable of feeling deeply, even if he doesn't always talk about it. A hug is never just skin to skin. It's nervous system to nervous system. It has the power to bring past and present together in one brief moment. And when done with care, that moment can help him reconnect to pieces of himself that he's either forgotten or learned to hide. It's powerful, not because it changes his past, but because it helps him feel something now, with you, in real time. And that can be quietly life-changing. For many men, daily life feels like a constant performance. They're expected to be composed, dependable, and strong, both physically and emotionally, whether it's pressure at work, expectations from family, or even the quiet fear of not measuring up. There's often very little space where they feel they can truly exhale. That's why when a man receives a genuine, heartfelt hug, it can be one of the rare moments where he feels he can finally let go. A real hug, one that's slow, intentional, and filled with warmth, tells him that he doesn't need to keep carrying the weight of everything alone. It tells him he can take the armor off, even if just for a few seconds. In that embrace, there's no need to impress, to fix anything, or to be in control. He doesn't have to say the right thing or maintain the mask he's used to wearing. He can just be fully present, fully human. So much of a man's emotional energy is spent managing the world around him. Whether he realizes it or not, he often feels the responsibility to keep things stable, to be the provider, the problem solver, the one others lean on. And when you're always the one holding it together for everyone else, it's easy to forget what it feels like to be held. That's why a hug from someone who truly cares can hit so differently. It's not just about physical closeness, it's about emotional safety. In that moment, his body might physically relax for the first time in hours or even days. His breathing slows, his shoulders drop. You may even feel a subtle shift in how he leans into you, like he's finally allowing himself to trust that someone else has him, even just for a beat. It's in that space that he finds relief, not from the world outside, but from the pressure he puts on himself. This kind of release is something he might not talk about. He may not even consciously process it. But deep down, it matters. Deep down, that hug gives him permission to feel, to soften, to connect. It reminds him that he doesn't have to carry everything alone, that strength doesn't always mean being hard, and that being held doesn't make him weak. On the contrary, it often takes more courage to surrender to closeness than to hold it at arm's length. And when you give him that space, when you hug him without needing anything back, without asking him to be anything but himself, It becomes a silent invitation, an invitation to breathe, to feel, to reconnect with parts of himself he keeps guarded from the rest of the world. In that simple act, you give him something rare, the experience of peace without condition, and for a man who's used to always being on, that kind of moment is unforgettable. When a man receives a hug, he's not just feeling your arms around him, he's feeling the energy you bring with it. He notices the way your body moves, the tension or softness in your muscles, the rhythm of your breath, and the emotion behind your touch. Even if he doesn't consciously analyze it, his body and heart are tuned into what your hug is communicating. And believe it or not, that energy speaks louder than any words you might say. Every hug carries a message. Sometimes that message says, "I'm happy to see you." Other times it says, "I'm distracted," "I'm unsure," or "I'm all in." Men, often relying on physical cues more than verbal ones, are particularly sensitive to what you mean when you touch them. If your hug is rushed or half-hearted, he'll feel it. If your body is tense or emotionally closed off, he'll pick up on that too. On the flip side, when your hug is open, warm, and present, it has the power to make him feel deeply wanted, accepted, and connected. The truth is, most men don't often experience emotional intimacy in their daily lives. Their interactions can be practical, task-focused, or surface level. So when a woman offers a hug that carries emotional depth, it becomes more than just a moment. It becomes an experience. He feels whether you're hugging him out of obligation or genuine desire. He notices if your heart is in it, if you're truly present, or if you're just going through the motions. And when he feels that emotional presence, it invites him to be emotionally present too. Sometimes the difference between a good hug and an unforgettable one is just a few degrees of intention. If you take a moment to really be there with him, letting your body soften, letting your breathing sink, holding him just a little longer, it tells him something powerful, that you're safe, that you care, and that he matters in this moment. And when a man feels that kind of energy from you, he remembers it. It stays with him even after the embrace ends. Energy is contagious. If you bring calm, he feels it. If you bring affection, it melts his defenses. If you bring uncertainty, it makes him question what's underneath. Men might not always talk about emotional energy in the way women do, but they absolutely feel it. It's what makes them lean in or pull away, feel secure or hesitant, open up or shut down. So the next time you hug a man, don't underestimate the power of your presence. Don't worry about saying the perfect thing. Just be there, fully, softly, with intention. Because in that moment, what you're really doing is offering a mirror, showing him how it feels to be embraced not just by someone's arms, but by their heart. And when a man receives that kind of energy, it speaks to something in him that's far deeper than words can ever reach. Sometimes, life weighs heavy on a man in ways he doesn't know how to explain. He might be carrying stress from work, pressure to provide, worries he can't put into words, or emotions he hasn't fully processed. In these moments, verbal reassurance might feel too complicated or too exposed. He may not know what to say, how to say it, or if it's even okay to feel what he's feeling. That's where a hug becomes something quietly powerful. It reassures him without requiring him to say a single word. When you hug a man, and you do it with presence and genuine warmth, it sends a message that cuts through the noise. It tells him, "You're not alone. I'm here with you. You don't have to fix everything right now." It's like emotional oxygen. In that silent embrace, you're reminding him that he's allowed to feel what he's feeling, that he's still lovable and valuable even when he's not strong or put together. And that kind of unspoken reassurance is rare, which makes it deeply meaningful. Men, in general, are not taught to seek comfort in the same way women are. They often grow up believing that they need to handle things themselves, to stay composed, to push through. As a result, many don't even realize how much they long for comfort until someone offers it. A hug, in that sense, becomes a form of emotional permission, an invitation to let go of the need to carry it all for just a moment. What makes this kind of hug so powerful is that it bypasses logic and language. You don't need to explain yourself, and neither does he. There's no pressure to find the right words or have a solution. All that matters is the feeling of connection. And in that connection, he finds stability, he finds peace, he finds that quiet voice in the back of his mind finally softening because your presence has reminded him that it's okay to just be. There's a subtle but significant difference between offering advice and offering closeness. One speaks to the mind, the other speaks to the heart. And for a man who may be stuck in his head, overthinking, analyzing, or holding things in, a hug helps pull him back into his body. It grounds him. It lets him feel human again, not as a protector or provider, but simply as a person who needs care and closeness like anyone else. The beauty of this reassurance is that it lingers. Long after the hug ends, he'll remember the feeling. He'll carry it with him as proof that he's supported, valued, and loved, not for what he does, but for who he is. And that simple, wordless moment might be the one thing that gives him the strength to keep going, knowing that someone is in his corner without needing anything back. In a world that constantly demands action, a hug becomes a quiet, powerful answer. You're enough, right here, just as you are. When a woman hugs a man with real warmth and sincerity, it often activates something instinctive in him, something primal and emotional. That single act of closeness can stir his desire to protect her, to hold her longer, and to be emotionally and physically close. It may seem like a simple embrace from the outside, but inside it awakens a deep part of him that wants to provide, support, and connect. Men are wired, on a very fundamental level, to want to protect those they care about. This doesn't mean in a possessive or dominant way, but in a nurturing, quietly powerful way. When he feels your body relax into his, when he senses your trust in that moment, something clicks. He doesn't just feel affection, he feels responsibility. Not the heavy kind, but the kind that says, I want to be someone you can lean on. I want to make you feel safe. That's not because you need saving, but because your openness brings out a softness in him that's tied to loyalty and love. And then there's the closeness. A hug, especially one given freely and without reservation, can ignite a wave of emotional intimacy. Men who often go without regular physical affection experience hugs as a form of connection that they don't always get in other areas of life. When you wrap your arms around him, you're not just closing the physical space, you're closing the emotional space too. He feels invited in, he feels wanted, and that invitation pulls him toward you, not just physically, but emotionally. In relationships, these moments of closeness build trust. Every time you embrace him with tenderness, you're reinforcing a quiet message. This is a safe space. You can be yourself here. And when he feels safe, his desire to bond intensifies. That's when he starts to open up more, to share what's going on inside, or to just rest in the silence of your presence without needing to fill it with noise. That's not weakness, it's connection, and it's powerful. Hugging can also stir romantic or even protective arousal, not just sexual, but emotional. It makes him want to pull you closer, to hold on a little longer, to become a safe place for you as much as you are for him. In that moment, his body is speaking a language his mouth might not know how to articulate. It's saying, I care for you. I want to be here. I want to be someone who matters in your world. So when you hug a man like you mean it, don't underestimate what it's doing to him. It's not just comforting, it's activating his desire to love, to protect, and to stay close. You're not just touching his skin, you're touching his instincts, his emotions, and his heart. And when those parts of him are engaged, something profound begins to take root. Not just desire, but devotion. Not just attraction, but emotional commitment. When you hug a man, there's a chance he might not know how to fully respond in that moment. Not because he doesn't care, but because it touches a part of him he's not used to exposing. He may seem quiet, freeze a little, or even make a joke to deflect. But under the surface, he feels it, deeply. That hug, that simple moment of warmth and presence, often stirs emotions that he doesn't always have the language or comfort level to express. Many men are raised to be emotionally restrained. They're taught to be strong, logical, and in control, which often comes at the cost of emotional fluency. So, when you offer him a genuine hug, one that isn't transactional or superficial, it catches him off guard. It's not just a physical gesture, it's emotional access. And for someone who's spent years guarding that part of himself, that kind of access can be both beautiful and overwhelming. He might hesitate, not because he doesn't want to engage, but because he's feeling more than he knows what to do with. In that moment, he may be reminded of past relationships, moments of comfort he rarely receives, or simply the deep relief of being held without needing to be strong. It can make him feel exposed in the best and most vulnerable way. But because he's not used to processing those feelings in real time, his body and his words might lag behind what his heart is experiencing. That's why his reaction might seem understated. He might not pull you in tighter or say something meaningful right away. He might stay silent, give a soft smile, or even shift his posture awkwardly. But don't mistake that for indifference. He's not brushing it off. He's absorbing it. And often, that absorption happens quietly over time. He'll remember the feeling, the comfort, the sincerity you gave him. He might not speak about it, but it lingers with him like a song he can't forget. Sometimes your hug reaches a place he doesn't even realize needed healing. It tells him, you're safe, you're accepted, you're not alone. And those are words many men rarely hear directly. So when you say them without speaking, through your arms, your presence, your warmth, it takes him a moment to fully register what just happened. That's the power of physical and emotional connection. It bypasses the rational mind and speaks straight to the heart. So if he seems a little quiet or unsure after the hug, don't pull away or overanalyze. Understand that you've just offered him something he might not be used to receiving. Let the silence be part of the connection. Let the stillness do its work. Because even if he doesn't show it in that moment, he feels it. And that feeling stays with him long after your arms let go. It becomes a quiet proof that closeness isn't something to fear, but something to trust, something real, something rare. A hug may seem like a simple gesture, but for a man, it can quietly begin building something powerful, emotional trust. In a world where vulnerability is often seen as weakness, especially for men, receiving a warm, present, and genuine hug sends a message that cuts through fear and emotional hesitation. It says, you're safe here. You don't have to pretend. That one moment of closeness can plant the first seeds of trust, even if he's not consciously aware of it. Men are often conditioned to be cautious with their emotions. Many grow up believing that showing too much feeling is dangerous, that it leaves them open to judgment, rejection, or appearing weak. Because of this, they can become guarded over time, offering only the parts of themselves they feel are acceptable or strong enough to share. But when someone hugs them with intention, not out of habit, not out of obligation, but with real presence, it opens a door. That door says, you don't have to carry it all alone. And once that door opens even a little, trust starts to grow. A meaningful hug, one that doesn't rush, that lingers just long enough, gives him the chance to breathe in your energy and let his walls down, even briefly. You're not demanding anything from him. You're not asking him to perform. You're simply offering closeness without condition. That's where emotional trust begins. In moments where someone gives without asking, holds space without pressure, and creates connection without needing control. Over time, these moments add up. The more consistently he experiences your presence as safe and non-judgmental, the more he begins to believe, I can be myself here. And that's when something special happens. He starts to bring more of himself forward. Not just his strength, but his softness. Not just his confidence, but his uncertainty. That vulnerability, once shared, deepens the emotional intimacy between you. But it started with something small, a hug that told him it was okay to just be. This kind of trust isn't built through grand declarations or deep conversations alone. Sometimes it's built in silence, in the quiet safety of your arms, in the moments where nothing is being asked of him, but everything is being felt. The warmth of your body, the stillness of the space, the steadiness of your heartbeat, it all creates a sense of home that he starts to rely on. And with every hug that feels safe, honest, and real, his guard lowers just a little more. Eventually, he begins to associate your presence with relief, with grounding, and with the rare experience of being fully seen and accepted. That's not just love, that's trust. And when emotional trust is present, everything changes. He becomes more open, more affectionate, more communicative, not because he's being asked to, but because it finally feels safe to do so. And it all began with something as simple and as powerful as a genuine hug. In the end, a hug may seem like a small everyday gesture, but for a man, it can carry incredible emotional weight. It's more than a moment of physical closeness. It's a quiet invitation to be vulnerable. It tells him he doesn't have to perform, fix, or protect in that moment. He can just be. It reminds him he's not alone, that someone sees him, accepts him, and chooses to be close without conditions. When you hug a man with genuine presence, you're not just touching his body, you're reaching his emotions, his memories, and often the parts of himself he keeps hidden from the world. You offer him relief from the weight he carries. You activate his desire to protect, to connect, to stay near. And most of all, you build a bridge of emotional trust that words alone often can't create.